If you've ever felt like you're always given in love, but in your romantic relationships, maybe even in your friendships or your family relationships, you never actually feel fully seen, or especially you don't feel fully heard, then this episode is going to be for you because you may have the romanticist love loop. So, thank you so much for joining today. And we're going to dive into this specific love loop pattern. But if you don't know what your love loop is, and this is the pattern type that you have in regards to how you show up in love and money. And when we're talking about money, we're talking about the umbrella of career, business, finances, all of that. But this is how you're showing up in your relationships, whether it's romantic, family, friendship, your relationship with yourself, and in your money relationship. You're going to want to take the quiz if you haven't taken it so you know what your core pattern is and what your core wound is so that you can actually get ahead of it to break the loop, break that cycle, and actually rewire and get in alignment with your next level. So today, like I said, we're focusing on the romanticist love loop, and that's going to be the love loop that really has a hard time using their voice and stepping into their authenticity. When it comes to the romanticist pattern, one of the core signatures of this pattern type is the suppression of the voice, suppression of expressing your needs, expressing your wants, that underlying belief of feeling like a burden. You also probably over fantasize romance when it comes to relationships, hoping that someone will just know what you want, know what you need, someone will meet your needs, but you're not actually standing up for yourself, being vocal about it, allowing yourself to truly express your authenticity. And I always like to say that my romanticists are one, they're like the sweethearts of the eight love loops. Don't get me wrong, everyone can love romance, everyone can be a romanticist at heart. But for all of the people that I have worked with in my years, and once I discovered the romanticist pattern, they're really the hopeless romantics of the bunch. They are the ones, I always say, they have such a soft heart. They're so sweet, so dear. They're the type that would save a kitten from the tree and they just want to rescue and they just want to nurture and take care. There's so much in their feminine. Whether they're a man or a woman, they really embrace those feminine qualities, which is beautiful and amazing. And what also can happen a lot of times in their relationships is that they can often feel like a big comfy couch. I have seen this countless times in some of my personal relationships with romanticists and with the romanticists that I have worked with over the years. Many of them take on a caregiver role, or they take on the role of the big comfy couch, the therapist, the one who has to meet everyone else's emotional needs, listen to everyone else's emotional wants and emotional needs, but rarely do they ever step up to verbalize what they want and what they need and really be in their true authenticity, really living in their honesty and their transparency about how they feel and about what they want. So, really opening up that throat and allowing themselves to feel safe in their body to verbalize and to be very vocal about their wants and needs without the fear or shame of being a burden or having to shrink or that their needs won't get met. So, some of the common behaviors that you're going to see in a romanticist is silencing desires in order to keep the peace. Romanticists tend to really shrink and not want to cause any type of conflict. Again, they don't want to be a burden. So you will find a lot of romanticists avoiding conflict or avoiding conversations that they may be in fear may disappoint or may let someone else down, or that their truth and their honesty may disappoint. If they really said how they feel or what they really want and they stood up for themselves or they set boundaries, that this will cause a deep level of disappointment or being a burden. What I have also found in a lot of romanticists is that they often feel deeply misunderstood or emotionally invisible. Like people just don't care about their wants or needs. People don't care about what they need. So why even bother? Why ask? Why even bother? Why even share my true feelings? I don't really think anyone actually cares. They may also have a very roundabout way of expressing love. Maybe they're very romantic, very poetic. Rather than clear, direct communication, they might find themselves kind of talking around things, really softening their approach, which isn't always a negative thing, but it can be a negative thing if it's not allowing you to actually get your needs met because you're afraid to be more direct, to be more vocal, so that you can actually get the needs met. Now, often what I have found when it comes to romanticists, a very common thread for many of the romanticists is that this is often tied to their early childhood, their early developmental years. They were often raised in environments or they had caretakers at a young age where their emotional expression was linked to their survival. And if they felt like they could not truly express themselves or it wasn't safe to speak up or to ask for what they want or to express their feelings, this is where they learn to shrink and to close off their voice. I have seen this with those who either they're a lot of times a lot of romanticists are oldest children that had a lot of responsibility, whether responsibility over a parent, responsibility over maybe their siblings or other duties in the household, and they just had to comply to keep things going. Maybe they had a parent that was, I don't want to say abusive, but they may have had a parent that had a bit of a temper, and how they perceived it as a child was that it wasn't safe to express. I've often seen this also in those who were not raised by their actual parents growing up, and maybe they had to float around from different home environments. Maybe they were raised by, friends and family, or maybe they were in foster care, or they could have been raised by their grandparents or their aunts, or even in a living condition where, let's just say, they moved. Maybe they lived with their parents, but their parents had to live with someone else, or maybe it was a home or a life situation that was very uncomfortable for them as a child, that caused them to shrink their voice, because them being able to go along to get along, them being able to shrink their voice, them being able to safely navigate an environment without being too much or without being a burden, was a big part of their ability to survive. They linked their survival with, if I express myself, I could possibly not be able to have the comfort or have the security that I desire. So they learn to suppress their voice very, very early on. And then this is still showing up and how they show up in their romantic relationships, their family relationships, or even in their friendships. Now, in dating specifically, what you'll often see, especially in the early stages with a romanticist, is craving this very, very deeply romantic, very intense type of relationship when it comes to romance specifically. Like they just are lovers, which again, most of us can identify with that. But the fantasy of the relationship and what the relationship could be, and the need for the romantic gestures, that can create a lot of the emotional safety, but it's a false sense of safety. A lot of times the romanticists have a very difficult time being able to look at the relationship for what it actually is and the reality of the relationship, because they're so focused on the romantic story or the romantic experiences or the romantic gestures. And they often find themselves feeling very devastated when a connection fades, or if they don't feel like that the love or the connection isn't reciprocated at the same level. If they don't feel like their needs are being met, or that someone is fulfilling their emotional needs the way that they are meeting others' needs, that can lead to a lot of hurt, a lot of pain for a romanticist, even if they don't actually express that. I do find that even in breakups, a lot of romanticists, they may express some frustration or hurt or disappointment, but they still don't express just how deeply, especially to the person who hurt them. A lot of romanticists still will shrink their voice and hold back when it comes to expressing to the person who hurt them or broke their heart, and let them know, like, no, you really caused me a lot of pain, or this is how I really feel, or it can take them a long time to work up the courage to actually share and express themselves because they're so conflict avoidant. What you may also see in a lot of romanticists relationships is withholding the truth. In order to stay safe, again, this is all rooted in the core belief and the core wound of I am a burden and not wanting to be a burden and tying their voice to that. So for them, speaking their truth, no matter if it's not even something that is, life changing, just the idea of the possibility of conflict, and that conflict could lead to deep rejection, it could lead to disappointment, or possibly even abandonment that causes them to shrink in their truth. And the problem with this is that I have observed over the years in working with romanticists is that they're not truly authentic with their romantic partners. They're not truly expressing how they actually feel, what they actually want, what they actually need. When they're disappointed, when they're unhappy, they're holding themselves back. And when you hold back and when you're not authentic, and again, you can be authentic and honest and transparent about your feelings, your wants, your needs, and all of those things without it being conflict, without it having to be, you being a burden, or the belief or the fear that if I express myself, if I ask for something, that I'm going to be disappointing to the other person or reject it. You have to have this willingness to create intimacy. You have to look at your truth and your authenticity as a way to build an authentic connection. It's very hard to create a truly loving and lasting and intimate relationship with someone of the opposite sex, or a friend, or your family members, whoever you're trying to build the relationship with, because how you do one thing is how you're going to do another. It's hard to build that level of intimacy and connection if you are not willing to speak your truth, if you're not being fully authentic. Because in order to be fully authentic, you have to be willing to be fully seen. You have to be willing to be fully heard. So the things that may not resonate with other people, the things that may come across as taboo or not okay, whatever that is, that's your truth. Even sometimes it can be difficult to express the good things, the compliments, the love, the beautiful stuff, but if you have a fear of being fully authentic, that's going to lead to someone being disappointed in you, or your survival is linked to that, then you're not going to build the type of intimate connection that you actually desire, because you have to be authentic. You have to be able to share your truth. You have to let someone truly hear you and see you in order to bridge the gap and to create a actual intimate, long-lasting relationship. What you may also be doing if you're a romanticist is hoping that your partner simply just reads your mind so that you don't have to express yourself, so that you don't have to say the thing that you don't want to say, or you don't have to disappoint, or, face that possibility of rejection or abandonment or any of that. So you're just waiting for someone to read your mind. You're waiting for someone else to meet your needs, instead of understanding that the fastest and the best way to get your needs met is for you to express yourself. Is for you to be honest, be truthful, be authentic, so that you're giving someone the opportunity to actually meet your needs. Because if not, what happens is that as a romanticist, you're going to build these feelings of resentment because you feel unappreciated. You feel like you're giving and you're supporting others, and you're being someone's big comfy couch, you're being someone's therapist, you're being someone's caretaker, but they're not meeting your needs. But the reality is they don't even know that you have these unspoken needs, or you have these unspoken wants, or they're asking you, but you're shrinking and minimizing it in order to avoid conflict, or to just get along, or to not appear to be a burden. So this is a big block that's going to be in your love life. And for someone that's listening to this that doesn't have that issue, like for me, honestly, I've never had a problem with using my voice. It's always been the opposite. It's always been, I need to be more mindful of how I filter my voice, right? But for someone else who does have this as a core wound and as a challenge, and they operate in this romantic pattern, it's very scary. It's very, very scary to step out of your comfort zone and to use your voice, and to not be seen as good, and to not be seen in this like super perfect way, that you have wants and needs as well, that you can actually set boundaries, all of those things. It can be very, very scary. So I just wanted to point that out, because if you're not a romanticist and you're listening to this and you're like, oh, that's not a big deal. Why do they need to rewire that? Why do they need to do inner work with that? No, that's not how it goes for the romanticist. And that's why knowing your pattern type is important, because everyone has their own thing. And for the romanticist, using their voice, not being afraid of being a burden, not being afraid of conflict, not feeling as though they have to shrink their wants and their needs in order to just go along to get along, and just live in this romantic fantasy in order to build relationships. And it never works in that type of way, because real relationships require intimacy and being seen and being heard and all those things. But for someone who has a romanticist, yes, it's going to be very scary and uncomfortable. So doing the work to rewire this specific fear and belief, and learning how to create new patterns in how you show up in relationships, how you show up in friendships, how you show up even in your work environment when it comes to using your voice, in all of your relationships, family relationships, relationships with your children, whatever it is. But really learning to stand in your authenticity and being your truth, that is going to be the key that unlocks this. Now let's talk about the emotional cost, because whenever you are doing this work, or you are like, okay, I get it, I have the romanticist pattern, but is it something that I actually need to work on? Or maybe it's gotten me this far, I've been able to get this far, do I need to really go any further? Well, everything has a trade-off. So when you don't do the work, when you don't rewire the pattern, there is a trade-off for that. There is an emotional cost that goes along with this. And I always like to say this, and I tell this to my clients sometimes, look, everything has consequences. There's good consequences and there's bad consequences. But everything has consequences. So when you think about the consequences of not rewiring this pattern, it really comes down to having a disconnection from your voice. And a disconnection from your voice leads to a disconnection from yourself. You will find yourself feeling like you don't really know yourself. You don't really know what you want. You don't really trust yourself to get your own wants and needs met. You don't trust yourself to set boundaries. You don't feel safe in your body. You're going to feel a lot of anxiety in different areas of your life or in relationships, because you don't trust yourself to speak up for you. You don't trust yourself to protect yourself in that type of way. So this disconnection from your voice is going to lead to a disconnection to yourself. It'll also lead to an emotional burnout. You will find yourself in relationships where you just feel exhausted because you are overgiving emotionally in order to meet everyone else's needs. You may even do this if you're a mom and you have children, and your relationships with your children or your husband or in your household, or even just with your family at large. You might find yourself overgiving an emotional burnout because you're putting everyone else's emotional needs first, and you're not speaking up and letting people know how they need to meet your emotional needs. So you're giving, and you don't feel that reciprocation. And that simply is always going to lead to cycles of resentment, withdrawal, or just emotional martyrdom. So you're just going to find yourself consistently abandoning your emotional needs, consistently just putting yourself last. And it will breed a lot of resentment. It will build up, it will cause problems, it will cause stress or anxiety or inner conflict, even if you're not outwardly expressing it. It will build up emotionally. So the things that we want to focus on when it comes to rewiring this, the first thing, there are 3 core things, I'll say this. And you can work through this if you're a member of the Love Loft. You can go inside the Rewire Vault under the Romanticist Love Loop module. There's a whole list of workshops and visualizations in order to help you to intentionally rewire. If you're not a member of the Love Loft, you can simply start off with the Romanticist Rewire Kit. I'm going to make sure that the link is in the show notes. You can go ahead and purchase that. That is a step for you to take to start. Inside the Rewire Kit, we provide you with a set of workshops, some of the core workshops. It's not the whole module, but it is a set and a bundle of workshops for you to start rewiring and to do this on your own. Everything inside the the Romanticist Love Loop kit is specific to the Romanticist, especially the Romanticist Heart Healing Visualization that is specifically to address the core wounds and patterns of the Romanticist. But the first thing that you really want to focus on is that divine communication and stepping up into being the emotional leader. So inside the Rewire kit and inside the vault, inside the Love Loop Rewire vault, we have the authentic expression module, or workshop. The authentic expression workshop, when I created that, it is to help you to work through whatever it is that you need to voice, or whatever it is that you're holding back, so that you can get more comfortable with your authentic expression. So there is a workshop for that includes, the journal prompts. It includes the heart healing visualization that's specifically around authentic expression. And you can listen to that about, at least I would say, 2 to 4 times a week to help you to rewire that pattern, to get you very comfortable with opening up your throat and stepping into your authentic expression. When it comes to the authentic expression, it's really going to be centered around learning to own your voice, even when it feels vulnerable, even when it feels uncomfortable, but learning to feel very safe in your throat, safe in your body, and safe with your voice. Stepping into that space of really being the emotional leader so that you can feel safe to communicate with clarity and with grace. And then, of course, learning to be more heart-centered so that you can express love in a healthy way that also feels very grounded in your body and doesn't create that same level of fear and anxiety that you've been operating in for so long. Now, there are a few other things that we're going to focus on when it comes to rewiring the Romanticist Love Loop. Like I said, inside the Love Loop Rewire Vault, as a member of the Love Loft, there's a whole pathway for that. But inside the kit, there's still some specific things. So with the Romanticist workshop and visualization, again, all of these visualizations, I would suggest for you to do them at least twice a week as you're rewiring, 2 to 4 times a week. And you want to practice repetition because it's not a one-shot thing. One of the things with personal growth or inner work, rewiring patterns, a lot of times people say, okay, I did it. And they think that that's just it. It took you years or decades to dedicate these patterns. You really need to look at this as a process. You're putting yourself through a transformational process, and you need to do it on repeat. So if you have just the kit and not the full vault, then you want to do the workshops, and you don't have to do the full workshop. Like, you don't have to do the journal prompts every single day, but do the journal prompts, at least go through it once, and then listen to the visualization at least 2 to 4 times a week. And then you're going to do the next set and the next, and you're just going to work through it week by week, but you're also going to want to repeat and go back to it, because you are creating a new neural pathway inside your brain so that you are stepping into a new way of being. So this is something that you're going to want to revisit over and over again. It's not just one and done. But when you have the kit, at least you have that. You can just refer back to it whenever you need to and go back to the core things centered around the Romanticist. But for the Romanticist heart healing visualization, that is centered around rewiring the belief of being a burden. And inside of that visualization, it addresses this belief and this core wound specifically, because that core wound is specific to the Romanticist. And then we also have a visualization inside the kit and inside of the vault that centers around boundaries. Learning how to express boundaries, set boundaries, and feeling safe in your body to do that. Here's the thing. We want to create head and heart coherence. So right now, you may logically know, okay, I need to say this thing, or I need to set boundaries, or I need to communicate this, or I need to be more authentic. You may be very much in your brain and in your head about it, which probably causes a lot of anxiety and stress as well. But you may not feel safe in your body. So we need to get your nervous system and your capacity for authentic expression, for releasing the belief around I am a burden, feeling safe to ask for your wants and your needs to get met, feeling safe to expect your emotional needs to get met. We need to get your brain and your body, head and heart coherence. We need to get these two in alignment with each other. So this is why you want to do the inner work. Get to the root, do the work that's required internally so that you shift this pattern. Just think about how much it'll shift for you as a romanticist in your relationships, in your household, in your family unit, even in your work relationships. When you feel confident and worthy enough to get your emotional needs met, to express yourself, and to live in your true authenticity, the only way for you to attract the next level of love, of romance, of the type of partnership or marriage or family life or friendships or whatever it is that you want is for you to feel safe with being fully heard. People need to hear you. And as a romanticist, this is going to be a part of your spiritual growth, a part of your personal growth, a part of your key. When you talk about manifesting your next level, this is always going to be the key thing that will hold you back. If you are doing this work and you're like, right now we're focusing on love. I'll be doing a future episode to focus more about money and next level alignment when it comes to romanticists, but specifically we're talking about that next level for your romantic life, for your love life, for your relationships at large. That next level is always going to come back to, where am I shrinking my voice? Where do I need to be heard? Where do I need to set a boundary? Where am I not being authentic? You always need to challenge yourself and look to, where is this showing up for me? If you can find where that pattern is showing up for you, do the inner work and rewire this, you will be able to manifest that next level when it comes to your love and your relationships. This is going to be the key. This is going to be your secret sauce. This is going to be the shift that has to happen to manifest the love, the relationships, the friendships, all of those things that you want. That level of intimacy and connection, the more quality relationship, the commitment, all the things that you want. Improving your marriage, improving your love life, improving your friendships is going to come down to your willingness to shift into someone who is powerful and bold in their self-expression. So I hope that this was helpful for you and that you loved this episode. Make sure that if you want to just get started on this, just a little starter kit, you want to go ahead and get the Romanticist Love Loop kit. That has the workshops, it has journal prompts, it has the heart healing visualizations, and a breakdown, even further breakdown of this Romanticist Love Loop that's going to talk to you about how this is showing up so that you can rewire it. So you want to make sure that you get that. I'll make sure that the link is in the show notes. And if you want to go even deeper, if you are someone with the Romanticist Love Loop pattern and you want a deep, lasting internal shift, if you truly want to get to the root, unblock this, step into the next level, and have a plan, a very strategic plan for you to manifest your next level of love, then you want to go ahead and book a heart spa day. I'll put the link in the show notes for that so you can book a consultation. But the heart spa is it's like my favorite thing to do. I love doing the heart spa. But the heart spa is going to help you to really address those subconscious blocks, get in alignment with the love, the marriage, the relationships that you want. It's going to help you to create a clear vision for what you want and who you need to be moving forward, from the internal shifts as far as like the hypnosis and also a strategic plan. But it's also going to help you to do major emotional release so that you get in alignment with that. So we have a heart spa day that is specifically dedicated to rewiring your subconscious beliefs and blocks when it comes to love, whether you need to heal, release some grief around relationships and love, or if you desire to attract love, or if you desire simply to level up your current relationship or your current marriage. The love alignment heart spa is going to be for you. So book a consultation for that, just so you can get the information, see if you're a good fit for that. We'll talk about everything that's included. It is a day of luxury, honey, where you get fully served. It's truly a beautiful day, a day that is going to be a life-changing day for you. And I can say that because our clients have said it. So thank you for tuning in. And make sure that you share this with someone that you know or someone that could benefit. Send them the Love and Money Pattern quiz. You're going to go to theloveloss.com/quiz. The link is in the show notes. Share this quiz with someone that you know. Help us to spread the word when it comes to my 8 signature love loop patterns. Help those that you know so they can level up in love and money. Don't be selfish. Don't be in a scarcity mindset. Spread the word. Leave us a review if you love this podcast episode. Make sure that you leave us a review or leave a comment so that we know that this is resonating and is benefiting. And it'll also help us to spread the word and continue to get this content out there for those who need it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a wonderful, wonderful week.